Greetings, everyone. Once more, I want to welcome you to my YouTube class. In today's class, we are going to be talking about one of the nematode parasites that is known as Ascaris lumbricoides or Ascaris sp. Because there are two different species of this parasite, nematode parasite, known as Ascaris. Many people have always said that Ascaris is the largest nematode parasite, but that is not the case. As a matter of fact, we have Dracunculus medinensis as the largest nematode parasite that affects man. However, Dracunculus medinensis is still not the largest nematode parasite. I mean, when you talk about all the nematode parasites, the largest of all of them is the one they call Placentonema gigantissimum, sorry, Placentonema gigantissimum. This is the largest nematode parasite we have in the world. It affects the placenta of sperm whales. But we're not going to that. Our study today is limited to Ascaris lumbricoides. So Ascaris sp. We have two different species of Ascaris. The first one is lumbricoides that affects man, and the second one is suum that affects pigs. These two species of Ascaris are morphologically the same or indistinguishable. However, at ultra structural level, when you talk about the basic details of their cells, you now begin to see some little differences between these two species of Ascaris. Ascaris, Ascaris lumbricoides, or Ascaris species, are large nematode parasites that extends up to about 30 to 50 cm when it comes to length. Then the width is about 2 to 4 cm. The females are always larger than the males. The size of the male is between around probably 15 to 30 cm, but that of the female is about 30 to 50 cm with the same diameter of 2 to 4 cm. This is to tell you how large this worm is. Now, when it comes to the females, the female worm, they have extensive ovaries and uteri that can house about 27 million eggs at once. Can you see how huge the number of eggs this parasite can house at once is? About 27 million eggs can be housed at once by this parasite. So the parasite produces millions upon millions of eggs. Now we're going to go into the classification briefly. When it comes to classification of Ascaris, you can see that it has the phylum as Nematoda, class Phasmidia. Of course, we have two different classes when it comes to nematode. We have the Phasmidia cecinacia or the Aphasmidia, the adenophoria. When we say the aphasmidia, we mean those that do not have that sense organ that is called phasmid. Now, phasmidia are the group of nematode parasites that have that sense organ that is called the phasmid. So all these nematode parasites we're going to be studying henceforth: Ascaris, the hookworm and Salostoma, the Necata americanus, the Strongyloides saccharalis, Dracunculus medinensis, Tozocara. They all fall under the phasmid because they have the sense organ known as they have they fall under phasmidia because they have the sense organ known as the phasmid. But the Trichuris we studied and the Trichinella, fall under the aphasmidia or adenophoria because they lack that basic sense organ known as the phasmid. So have Ascaridata as the order or have Ascaridae as a family. Then of course the genus is Ascaris, and like I said, we have two basic species known as lumbricoides and the suum. I said that lumbricoides is the species that affects man, then the suum is the species that affects pigs. Having said all this, and I forgot to say that one of the basic thing we should also know about Ascaris is that it is cosmopolitan in distribution. What does it mean? It means that it affects large number of people almost in every part of the world where we have conditions that favor the life cycle of this parasite. This will lead us to the life cycle of Ascaris lumbricoides because you can't say that you have fully studied the parasite when you have not known the life cycle. The life cycle of this parasite begins by the injection of the infective stage, and this infective stage that contains the infective larva, which is the L2 larva, is housed within the egg. So it means that when someone who is suffering from ascariasis, that's the name of the name of the disease is ascariasis. When somebody who is suffering from ascariasis defecate, now the eggs within these feces that are newly released are not embryonated. Embryonation of the eggs takes about 9 to 13 days, or let's say about 2 weeks before embryonisation occurs. And that is the molting of this egg from L1 to L2. That is what we call embryonation. So the infective stage is L2 larva, which is within the eggshell. Okay, now the life cycle begins by the injection of this infective stage or infective egg. Once it is ingested, the eggs hatch. The eggs hatch. The eggs hatch. Once they hatch, of course, the location of the body where it hatches is within the small intestine. So once the eggs hatches, then the larva will now penetrate the mucosa and submucosa of the intestine, the wall of the intestine, and join circulation. Once it joins circulation, it is being taken to the heart, and from the heart, it joins pulmonary circulation to the lungs. Within the lungs, it follows through the air space, and it join what we now call, or follows what we now call the respiratory stream from the bronchioles to the bronchi, from the bronchi to the trachea, from the trachea to the uh, pharynx, from the trachea to the pharynx, and from the pharynx it mixes with sputum. And once it mixes with sputum, it is now ingested back into the small intestine. It is important you know that the mounting of this L2 to L3 occurs within when it is within the lung space, the tissues of the lungs. That is when it molts again to become L3. Then the period where it is passing through this respiratory tree, the bronchi, the trachea, then the pharynx, the period where it is passing through this respiratory tree is when it must again to become L4. Now, by the time it gets to the pharynx, it mixes with the sputum, and the individual swallows. When the individual swallows the sputum, then that worm gets back into the small intestine. Now, the L4 larva, by the time it is pushed down into the small intestine, so within the small intestine again, that is where it now molts again from L4 to adult. Of course, the adult male and females will mate, and once they mate, they produce another set of eggs. And this set of eggs, of course, that are being produced will remain in the body of the host until when next the host defecates and they pass out to the external environment through the feces, and the cycle continues. So you can see that eggs are passed out through the feces and the cycle continues. Simple. This is the life cycle of Ascaris lumbricoides or Ascaris suum. The next thing we'll now talk about is the diagnosis and treatment of these parasites. Diagnosis is simple. Diagnosis is through the demonstration of the presence of eggs in fecal sample. The demonstration of the presence of eggs in fecal sample. Now, the individual gets the feces, and from the feces, the lab scientists will analyze the physics, investigate the physics in order to determine or find out uh, the presence of the S of Ascaris in such physics. That is what we call demonstration of the presence of S in fecal sample. And there are some few things you can use to identify the S of Ascaris rhombicoides. One is that the S are not encapsulated. They don't have extra shell that covers them, unlike the eggs of some other nematoparasites. And they also do not have the polar plugs. These polar plugs are found in the eggs of Trichuris trichura. If you can remember, we talked about the presence of polar plugs. So the eggs of Ascaris rhombicoides do not have polar plugs. And they are kind of warty and rough. They are strong, warty, and rough. That is another basic feature one can also use to identify the eggs of Ascaris rhombicoides. It's also yellowish brown in color. Yes, that is the color that the eggs assume. And one can also use the size of the eggs to also determine that, okay, this is the eggs of Ascaris rhombicoides. And of course, it is also important to know that when the eggs are unfertilized, they're usually long and narrow, but become oval when it is fertilized. That is about the diagnosis of Ascaris rhombicoides. Apart from that diagnosis, the next thing we'll talk about is treatment. How do we treat ascariasis? Don't forget the name of the disease, or the name of the disease causes is what we call ascariasis. Ascariasis. So the primary drug that is used for the treatment of ascariasis is mebendazole, the same drug we've been talking about since we started this nematode diseases, or talking about nematode parasites. The same drug, mebendazole. However, some people use in mixed infection, some people use tetrachloroethylene. Now, the implication of using tetrachloroethylene in mixed infection is that this drug, tetrachloroethylene, has a way of causing ascaris to knot up within the intestine. And once they knot up within the intestine, of course, they can cause mechanical uh, uh, blockage of the intestine. This will reduce absorption and can result to a very critical condition in the body of the host. And that is why it is always good to expel the ascaris first by the use through the use of the mebendazole before this tetrachloroethylene can be used. And I'm saying this when you're treating people with misinfection. Probably the person has ascariasis and also has other nematode diseases or other nematode worms that are associated with Ascaris. Okay, having thought about diagnosis, treatment, then epidemiology, the spread of the disease. How does this disease Ascariasis spread? There are, there are factors that help in the spread of ascariasis, such as humidity and you know uh, moderate temperature. It helps in the spread of ascariasis. When the environmental conditions are okay, then of course the eggs can thrive in such environmental condition. And of course, it's also important to note that the eggs are resistant to some adverse environmental conditions, such as low temperature, even desiccation. mm, They are they are they are resistant to some of these adverse environmental conditions, and this explains the reason why the eggs can even last for so many years in the environment. So, but when it comes to the spread of the disease, of course, circulating banknotes can help spread the disease. Let's assume somebody who is suffering from ascariasis, defecates, and the person is a post conductor. If the person uses the same hand to, give you your change or your balance, as the case may be, Then, of course, if you use the same hand to take in any food without washing your hand properly, you can get infected that way. And we'll have similar ways, even wind. Yes, wind can also help in the spread of this disease or the S of Ascaris, especially during dry season. Food vendors, somebody who sells food uses the same hand to, probably after going to the toilet, the person did not wash their hand properly, use the same hand to give you to dish food for you, and if the hand touches the food, of course we can get infected through that way. Then, of course, mechanical vectors. Mechanical vectors can also help in the spread of Ascaris lumbricoides. When I say mechanical vector, of course, you have basically you have two main types of vectors. We have the biological vectors, and in biological vectors, of course, the parasite, is usually found within the body of the vector. Then, in a mechanical vector, the parasite is found on the body of the vector, or have other basic reasons, basic differences, sorry, between biological vectors and the mechanical vectors, but this is not what I'm here to talk about. So the basic mechanical vector that is involved in the case of ascariasis is the musca domestica, that's the housefly. So housefly can perch on the feces of one who is suffering from ascariasis and also perch on your food. When you eat such food, you can get infected. And that is why maintaining personal hygiene is very important when it comes to prevention and control of Ascaris uh, disease, that is ascariasis. So, prevention and control, I've said it, food should be covered properly. Then, uh, if you go to toilet, make sure you wash your hand when you're back from the toilet, and children should be discouraged from using uh, their 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 hand, to play on the ground with their hand. And there's also people who lick their hands, go to toilets, don't wash your hand properly, and you're licking the same hand, and also using a feces for manure, except probably the feces is well treated, then it can be used for manure. So the use of feces, human feces for manure, especially in areas where people plant vegetables, it could also, help the transmission of these parasites. Then when it comes to pathology, these parasites, what does it cause? You know, the the case of pathology in Ascaris can be studied in two different ways. You look at the migrating larva and also look at the adult worm. So when it comes to the migrating larva, of course, when I was talking about the life cycle, I mentioned that the parasite passes through the lungs or the lung tissue, and of course, once they pass through the lung tissue, they cause a kind of damage, and this results to a kind of pool of blood within the lung tissues, and can also result to a secondary bacterial infection and inflammation of the lungs, resulting to pneumonitis or pneumonia. That's inflammation of the lungs. Then, because it passes through the bronchi, it can also cause problem within the bronchi, resulting to bronchial asthma. Can also cause damages within the trachea and the pharynx. All these area where it passes, Ascaris sustains the ability to cause damage or damages within this area. That is for migrating larva. Then what of the adult? The adult one can, cause mechanical obstruction within the intestine. There are two different parasites mainly that can cause two different examples of a nematoparasite that can cause mechanical obstruction. Okay, not nematoparasite, two different parasites, not necessarily nematoparasite. Or have a parasite that causes mechanical obstruction in the capillaries of the brain, and that is Plasmodium. We talked about that. Plasmodium is not a nematode, it's a protozoa parasite. So it causes mechanical interruption within the capillaries of the brain, resulting to hemorrhage. And I think we mentioned that when we talked about plasmodiasis. So the same way plasmodium causes mechanical obstruction is also the same way that ascaris can also cause sorry, mechanical obstruction within the intestine. And when this happens, of course, it reduces the rate of absorption, and of course also reduces the absorptive area within the small intestine. That means that absorption generally will be inhibited for somebody who has loss of this ascaris lumbricoides. Then Ascaris has also been implicated in the perforation of the intestine. So that means that they can even perforate the intestine. And once the intestine is perforated, that means that you see that food or water will be leaking out within the visceral parts of the body, and this can result to a very dangerous condition, very dangerous condition. So that is the pathology of Ascaris rubricoides. So this is the few things I have to tell us about Ascaris. Remember, we are not done with nematoparasites. We'll have other nematoparasites to talk about. So in my next class, I'll talk about Tozokara, after which I go into the hookworms, Ascaris rubricoides, and the Necator americanus. Thank you for being part of this channel. See you in my next class. I remain Dr. Anuku John Uchenna.